in order to communicate with people, I had to, one, respect my own ideas. You know, it's like yourself when you're in a conversation. It's something that people miss a lot. You know, it's like when you meet somebody really interesting, you're not just interested in them because like of what they, maybe like what they're doing, etc., but because they carry a certain presence.
What's up, everybody? It's your coach. Welcome to the most positive podcast on the internet right now, the Coach HP Show. And today I have who I think is one of the most bold. I think your story is so underrated. And I feel that because you are so special in your presence, that people get confused with you, that they think it's a presence thing, and they underestimate your substance.
Woo.
Does that make sense or no?
Well, I'm you know, I don't get speechless often, but that's a amazing way to put it. Thank you. Yeah, I often feel underestimated.
But you know why that is, at least to me, because, and I have to warn you, for this podcast, your intelligence level is up here and mine is down here.
Oh, please.
So I'm gonna, remember, I can barely speak two languages.
Look,
So,
but we're having like, this is a real conversation.
Super real.
Nobody's putting on any airs.
no, at all. But
yeah.
as I start to read your story and I start to hear your vocabulary, and I started hearing about you way back when, but I was attracted to the story.
Yeah.
But it was incredible how smart you are. Like, you're just intellectually, like your vocabulary, while listening to your book, I'm like, what are these words she's even talking about, right? So first question, how'd you get so smart?
Right. Well, my parents are very smart. Yeah. You know, my dad is what they call a savant. You know, he's a person who can absorb information and remember it. Like, he doesn't need a lot to remember things, you know? He was born in a very small village on the very western part of Ghana. He was an orphan by the time he was 14, so he couldn't afford to go to, you know, high school or pay for any schooling after like the 8th grade, but he still managed to get 2 PhDs. And he, like, when I was a kid, I was the house that, like, when my little friends would come over, we would, you know, be sitting like maybe eating at the dining room table or something like that. And he'd come over and be like, so what do you think about the civil unrest in Nicaragua? To like 10, 11, to 14, 16, you know, like he just has never come down to a level. He's at one level and that's all he knows. And so it doesn't matter who he's talking to, you know, he just expects you to come up here. And so I think some of it is nature, because I come from people who have a certain way about them, but a lot of it is nurture. A lot of my curiosity is nurture. It's like my dad asking a lot of questions all the time, challenging beliefs, like, you know, interested in the world at large. And so that's why I feel like most of the time when I'm talking about stuff, like I can get down with, you know, it's like 50 years of hip hop. I can also talk about political unrest in Nicaragua.
Crazy. No, and the wordmanship is insane. I was like, wow, this girl's so smart. And then while I'm reading your book, I'm like, she has a degree in English, right? And African American studies, right?
That's
So you really understand a lot of stuff. My first question for you is, when you start to figure out you're that smart, right? What do you start to notice in yourself? Do you start gravitating towards, oh, I want to be a lawyer, or because we're both sons of immigrants. Yes. So immigrants ain't about the creativity.
No.
They're about stability and income.
Never.
Right? So they weren't like, hey, you should do some TikToks.
Like,
That'll be a good idea.
Go get some money.
Go make some money. Exactly.
Yeah.
So your vibe, how did you start your thing?
Well, because, you know, child of immigrants, my dad wanted me to be a doctor. You know, I was always really good at science and math. Like, I naturally okay with it, you know? But I was also the kid in high school who took Latin, you know? Not because I was like, oh, I want to know a dead language, but because I was like, oh, that's going to help me on the SATs and it's going to help me when I get into medical school. That's what I thought. Can you imagine? Like at 16 years old, 14 years old. Anyway, and since I was naturally okay with it, I just went along. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Sure, I'll be a doctor. You want the best for me, right? Because not like my parents wanted the worst for me.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I'll do that. So when I got to college, that's what I majored in. I was pre-med. But I had always had such a love for everything pop culture also. Music and fashion and
your
food.
mom's side?
Yeah, a little bit, but also it was this survival. I was living in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We moved there when I was 12 from Ghana. I needed to be able to talk to the other kids. They didn't know about the political unrest in Nicaragua. They cared about what the Denver Broncos did on Sunday. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So I needed to understand where Elway came from.
Right.
I needed to be able to rap to whatever was hot on the radio.
Right.
I needed to wear the clothes that were cool because what was cool like 6 months ago might not be cool today, And so by the time I got to college, like pop culture was a little bit of like my escape from the seriousness of carrying my father's ambition. It was like, for me, the thing that I could do that was just fun. And I didn't know that there was like a career in it. I just thought like I could do that. And so I was pre-med, I majored in English and then African American studies because I was just so fascinated by this history, which I certainly feel like I come from, I think there's also been a lot of lies told to us through history that somehow like descendants of slaves are not also descendants of Africa. You know what I mean? It makes no sense.
It's weird.
And so it's like I looked at African American history and thought those are my people too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so for me, it was a mixture of all of these things that made me, go into this route. But honestly, by the time I graduated from college, I was like, I could be a doctor, but shit is boring. And I don't know that that's where really my passion is. I didn't know how to tell my family that, especially my dad, but I knew that I couldn't do that without exploring if there were other options.
I love you said that because I feel like a lot of times, like almost in storytelling and learning from somebody, like people like, okay, tell me from the beginning, whatever.
Right.
But I like to jump around,
Yeah.
So as I read your book for all the wrong reasons, right? I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna hear how she's a master marketer.
Right.
I'm gonna hear how she finagled the way into this and that. And obviously the Spike Lee, that's what first got me was the Spike Lee story.
Yes.
Because I was like, wow, this goes so gangster. This was awesome. See, I love this. Boom, 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 boom. But then it was all personal, right? And I felt so like empathetic for you. I'm like, this girl has had so much adversity and is such a winner the way she came out. And more people need to see the examples that are put in front of her because just even from Ghana, living in Colorado is interesting. Then if you go to New York, that whole experience was super interesting, right?
Yes.
So one of my questions is, how did you become such a good marketer?
Well, I think some of it came from that childhood experience, of like having to navigate a society that didn't respect me. You didn't respect me or where I came from, right? It's like, right? Look, I was called African booty scratcher more times than I can count.
Wow.
It's like there weren't a lot of people who would see the starving African kids on TV that it's like, oh, pay 1 cent and you'll feed them for a week.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then would look at me and be like, oh, I respect you. No, it's like, I gave your cousin over there a penny to eat. You know what I mean? You're starving too, right? It was just, I didn't have a lot of respect. And so
let me ask you a question with that. So you didn't have a lot of respect. Who would coach you there? Because I'm sure you have some insecure, like, you're like, what the fuck's going on here? People are like trying me. So would you go to your mom? Would you go to your dad? Or would they like say, no, listen?
Because my dad just operates like on a different plane. He's just not like, if my dad was sitting here right now, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He'd be asking you questions, finding out about your history, you know what I mean? Challenging like some thoughts and philosophies. Like he's not, So if I went to him with some like 12-year-old problem, he'd be like, who cares when we've got Russia? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, I don't, can you just, but my mom is very social. She is. She's the she's the one who's like the mayor of the town. You know what I'm saying? And she's the one who, when, you know, kids were going to come over to our house, right? I finally broke into the cool kids circle. Right. And they were gonna come over, and I was like, oh my God, okay, like we need to order the pepperoni pizza, like we need to get some Coke around here, you know, And she was like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. We're gonna eat fufu and pepper soup. That's what we're gonna eat. And I'm like, the fuck, what are you talking about? Like, I'm gonna get kicked out of the club before I even made it in. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it was like, I mean, obviously at the time it was devastating because I was like, why can't we just have fun?
But now you get it. But now you get it.
I mean, look, it's like, that's why when people say, oh, well, you know, how do you walk into these rooms that look nothing like you and able to command or walk in with your head high? Because I was taught the value of who I am. You know, and I'm not talking about no, like, you know, frou-frou thing. No, like, legitimately, like, hey, everybody on the fucking planet believes that Africans are less than them. Right. And I'm going to tell you why you are not that. Right. And when you walk into a room, why you need to come with your history and know that it's important. And so that experience both shaped me as, like, just a person walking in the world and understanding the value of my opinions, my thoughts, etc. But also that in order to communicate with people, I had to, one, respect my own ideas. You know, it's like yourself when you're in a conversation. It's something that people miss a lot. You know, it's like when you meet somebody really interesting, you're not just interested in them because like of what they, maybe like what they're doing, etc., but because they carry a certain presence. You know, and they are confident in what they are. And that's why you're attracted to them. They could say anything they want. Right. You know what I mean? And so marketing for me became a natural extension of that because it was simply just figuring out how to talk to people in the way that they want to be talked to. When they are interested in football, or they're interested in music, or they're interested in cooking, or whatever the thing is, it's like I can contribute my understanding of those things to the conversation. That's the win.
Amazing. One thing that I love that you did is, so I feel that in setting this up, and I feel like you're official in everything. Right? I'm official? Official. Like you're an official person. You know, like you're just not, I'm the opposite. I'm like I'm a passion guy, and I'm you told me right now, hey, let's go do something. Like, let's go. I'm not thinking about anything. Right. You're a winner. I'm just like all heart, right? I'm an attacker. But you are. I'm watching your vacation, right? And you are taking these like beautiful pictures like this, and I'm like, who thinks of that? Right? And then I'm watching how you parent, and the fact that you make your daughter do like a presentation, like, okay, you want to do this, you're gonna tell me now reasons why, whatever, right? That's right. Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm almost like the kid whisperer. I work with kids all over the world, right? And when parents reach out to me, and the majority of parents that reach out to me are successful parents, the number one gap between our generation and these kids' generation now is that parents don't do what you do. They don't invest time. They don't invest honesty, right? They don't invest empathy. Yeah, you know, it's a big one too, right? Because it's very hard, and I come from the sports world, so it's very hard for, you did it when you were young, and your daughter can't do it, and you looking at her and going, well, I don't know, why can't you do it? It looks so easy. Why can't you walk in a room and be glamorous? You have it in your blood. Come on. You know what I'm saying? It's your DNA, right? And you're like, oh, she does it like the dad. That's a damn it. He got me in another one. You know? But so I was born in Cuba. Being Cuban in Miami is almost like reverse racism. Because if you don't speak Spanish, like the Americans are pissed. They're like, oh, nobody speaks English here. What the fuck? Right? So I don't know what that's like. And in my brain, I have a thing where I feel everybody wants to talk to me, so I don't see, I'm just positive everywhere I go, and then I when I hear somebody likes me, I'm like, what? How can they not like me? You know? But you, as in your book, you illustrate the struggles you had in a relationship where you're dating like a white guy, and you're like, hey, look at this guy so happy here. Hey, why is it like you were almost in your head with that kind of struggle? And that to me was super interesting because I've never thought of that. Yeah. Right? Like I never thought about that, right? Yeah. Where I do have a lot of empathy for you, obviously, is like you said, like walking into rooms, making sure you're this or you're that, and being Cuban. Like there's a lot of Cubans that embarrass the Cubans, you know, and I'm sure there's a lot of Guyanese or there's that because it's
Yeah.
almost like there's different layers because you're like an OG. So I'm saying and there's a difference that because for some my friends who are Nigerian and stuff, there's some culture of people that are immigrants from Africa versus the United States.
Yes, correct.
And my question for you is, I think it's all in the parenting. I think immigrant away from USA parenting, right? Mess it up. I mean, are the ones that are winning, and the ones that are local, like domesticated, they're too worried about looks, the outside, making people happy, whatever. Do you agree with that or no? Do you see that?
Look, I think that there's so many different types of parents. You know, I could be very, very critical of immigrant parents because I think to some degree they cripple their children with aspirations that are too large.
Right.
You know, don't let them explore their full being. You know, that they carry the burdens of what they left back in some place. And they make them assimilate in a way that's really unhealthy, you know? And so to some degree, I'm like, there are positives and negatives of all kinds, you know? But I think to your point about parenting generationally, the thing that I am really proud of myself about, you know, and how I parent my daughter is that, you know, this is not a passive, like, ownership relationship. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't belong to me as, like, somebody that I've got to manage and make her do the thing, I do not see it that way. Whereas I know my parents saw me that way.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? They were like, no, this one is mine. And you're going to do this, that. Right? I see myself as almost like a champion and a vessel to get her to where she needs to go. You know? And that is why when it's like, oh, okay, you want to go on vacation? Fantastic. Tell me why. You know, it's not like a challenge that I am making you feel lesser than, like you're less smart than me and now I'm going to make you beg for it. No. Like, I actually am curious as to why you want to go there. And do you even know why you want to go there? Or are you just picking something to pick something, you know? And you should be curious about the world and you should be curious about your experiences. And for your Christmas list, you should be interested in that pair of sneakers that you want. Why? Because the other kids have it, or you think there's something special about it, like it's gonna make you run faster, or like what, you know? It's like, I feel like there's gotta be rationale and it helps for critical thinking so that it's not even just about that presentation or that shoe. It's like it applies to your entire life. So therefore, it's like, okay, you're making friends, you know, it's like you're talking to people, you're getting to know people at school, like you're gonna be more critical about what you think about their opinions and what their influence is on your life because I'm teaching you to be critical thinking about everything.
I love that.
You know, and that's the difference of the parenting. So for me, it's like, look, I also don't want her to carry the burdens of the shame of where you come from. You know, it's like what I just told you. It's like, look, my mom was like critically important to allowing me to understand that like where I came from was important. She only spoke our native tongue at home. You know, and when my little friends came over, she didn't switch to English. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, for me, it's like, look, there were lots of my other Ghanaian friends whose parents were like, no, you speak English
only.
at home, that's it.
It happens with
you know what I
Spanish.
mean?
It happens
And
with
lose
Spanish.
your accent immediately. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, look, I started taking Lael back to Ghana almost immediately after she was born. Because I'm like, you need to know where you're from. You know, and her dad is Italian, so I'm like, all right, let's go to Italy too. You know, you like, and people all day long will be proud to be from Italy. I want you to be proud of both. You know, I want you to say both with your whole chest that that's where you're from.
I love it. Why do you like Beyonce so much?
Why do I like Beyonce so much? Gosh, that's a good question. Well, one, she's a very talented musician and performer. I think maybe the best of our time. I would argue with somebody, like we could go fight outside about it, you know? Like she's just remarkable in that way. Her artistry is incredible. I've also known her for a very long time, you know? So I was privileged enough to see her way in the beginning, you know? The early Destiny's Child days, and then in her transition into a solo act. And at that critical time where she was going from being in the girl group to being her own performer, and how much hate and criticism she got. and how much people underestimated her. You know, I remember, I think it was like, I don't want to misquote, but I think it was a Source magazine had this article that was like Ashanti versus Beyonce, and they were like, Ashanti's gonna destroy Beyonce, like I said, and no disrespect to Ashanti, she's a beautiful performer too, but also, why are we pitting these two women against each other, first of all? But then also the fact that it's like, look, somebody could read something like that about themselves and completely like disassemble. Yeah. You know, it's like it will make you crumble. And it takes a lot of fortitude, especially when you realize that there's not a lot of success of solo acts coming from girl groups. Diana Ross is the only other one, okay? So it's like you got the odds against you. And then you got these people saying that you ain't shit anyway. Right. And then you're gonna come out and you're gonna be the queen. Yeah. Like, what? So I like her for a number of reasons.
Yeah. So I always tell people, I go, women can raise women very well. Like women are very, in my world from what I see, because they all want their daughters to be like Beyonce. Independent, they don't want guys running up on, you know what I'm saying? They're like very like that. But one of the reasons why, and I hope it happens soon, that I want you to have boys, sons, is because I would love to see you as a boy mom. Oh. Because, and the reason why is moms struggle with boys for so many reasons. And
I thought that was like the better relationship, is it not?
In the brain, this is why they struggle. I'm gonna tell you why they struggle. Yeah. So I started to, in my journey, when I started doing research with kids and working with kids and parents reaching out to me, an example, we do baseball practice. So you take a 5-year-old baseball practice versus a 5-year-old dance thing for just girls, right? Yeah. The girls get out of the car with the moms. They're in uniform already. They're very independent. They know where they're going. They're going to a studio. The line stops here. Parents ain't going in, right? It's like, hey, okay, bye. And they take over everything, right? Yes. The boy stuff, completely different. Mom walks out of the car, carrying the kid's equipment. The kid thinks he's on a play that he's like, la la la, missing his hat, no water. She's dragging him around the thing. And what I tell parents, I go, listen, you can't prepare a warrior when you bring in a baby. So from the beginning, you have to set the tone. Yes. And now there's ways, and this I'm obsessed with this. So there's ways to set the tone. And what happens is moms are losing because they didn't do what you did. You found yourself before your husband's incident, your ex-husband's incident. You were like, man, this ain't working out. This ain't working out. And you started to figure out what moms do is, especially in places like Miami, LA, like big places, they stay on longer than they should. They start dating other guys. They start worried about themselves. They let themselves go. There's so much. So the only human being that gives them affection and looks at them is who? That beautiful baby boy. Oh, interesting. So the affection that they give that kid, he doesn't understand that. Because if you give that to a man, he knows exactly what to do. Right. Oh, you look at me like that. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Game over. But a little baby's like, oh, mama. I don't want to go to school today. I don't want to go to school. You know what? You're right. No school today. No school. That's day 1. Then it's day 5. Then they're with the iPad 20. Nobody wants to parent. Right? But in the girl world, that doesn't happen. They're so competitive with each other. And the mom, she's like, no. But in the boy world, that happens.
It's like a little, how do dads react then?
And the problem with dads is this. Majority of dads don't step up. Want to know why? Because they're in the wrong relationship. They're not held accountable to themselves. They're trying to make more money than they need to make. You know what I'm saying? Capitalism, now, capitalism is amazing. It's the best thing ever. It's why we came here, right? But the problem is there's a certain time and place for everything. You're taking Santorini trips in your 40s. You weren't doing that in your 20s.
That sure was not. Couldn't afford it.
Right? But now what happened? Everybody's like, oh, look at Bozer. I want to go there next week. And you're like, dude, you haven't even put in the work. Right? And work hasn't become sexy. Values and speaking hasn't become sexy. What's become sexy is you. Oh, I see her there. She's with the thing, and then I was like, "Who thinks of this?"
Hustle culture is sexy, but it's like no,
but not really. But not really.
But it's like no, but the work though.
Exactly.
The work though that goes into the hustle.
But
though.
that's why with you,
some people don't see.
But with you, people get confused. They're like, "Oh, wait a minute! I just gotta get in shape, look glamorous, and life's gonna be great." It is if you're working in nightclubs and you're doing stuff like that. That's a great avenue.
But even that.
But if you go to corporate America or these places, what are you gonna do now?
Yeah.
Because every office has a hater, every office has a thing. There's boundaries, there's this and that,
you
right?
prove your work.
And your maneuvering skills around that is spectacular. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you is more that than and all your friends, they pump you. Oh, you look great. It's beautiful, awesome, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
But if there's no substance, they're gonna watch you go, oh, okay, next.
Evaporates. It's like a sugar high.
Yeah.
You know, if all you're getting is the glamour and like the good times, pretty soon that's gonna run out.
It's gonna run out.
You know, it's like you're not gonna keep that up forever. I know people are not that interested. You know, they're interested for a little bit on the shiny.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, like, I said a long time ago, I was like, you know, beware of what you think is shiny because there's steel underneath.
Of course.
You know, it's like, yo, look, if you come over here, you know what I mean, and you just think it's just shiny, I'm about to show you some real steel. And the thing is that, like, look, you gotta have that though in order to have duration. It's like you can burn out. Anybody can do that. Anybody can get glamorous and just like poof, do a bunch of big stuff and then you pewter out. It's like a firework. You know, I don't want to do that. I want to be like a roaring fire that's on all of the time. That adds more wood to it. Pour some gas on that joint too. You know, add some little timbers, add some coal on there. You know, it's like I just want to sustain. And so I'm not looking for the fast sparkle. The thing that explodes in the sky. Now look, you know, you've seen a bonfire before? I'm sure you built some.
Never built a bonfire? No, Miami, we're not doing bonfires.
Oh, come on.
But I know what that is.
I built some
of course.
Okay?
You're living life. In Miami, we're not living life. Trust me. We're worried about the beach, the club, how we look. You have essential skills.
Yeah. I can go camping. Okay?
We're not camping. We're not doing camping.
And the high heels
but that's why you're a winner.
I'm telling you.
You know what I'm saying?
I can survive outside.
Of course you can.
But you know, but in a bonfire, it's like sometimes you have the embers that spark, you know, and they come up. I like that. Yeah. Versus like just being a firework out there that's like explodes and then it's done, fizzles, finished.
It's so interesting because I talk a lot about something called with parents the Cuban guilt. There's so many people because people reach out to me on all phases, right? I get a lot of people that reach out to me. Obviously in the parenting thing through sports, but then I have a lot of 20, 30-year-old, 40-year-old guys that reach out to me asking me for advice on a bunch of things, right? I always tell people, I go, listen, when it comes to that, it's more important to have a happy, I think when you become an adult, people have to earn the right to be in your life.
Oh, yes.
Especially family.
Yes. Ooh,
right? Especially family. But you, on the other hand, you are special because you took care of your dad when no one else did. And he made it uncomfortable for you. And your dad, very similar to my dad, in the sense of like, my dad's the kind of guy that missed his calling in life, youngest of 15 kids, very smart. Dad died when he was 8 years old, but my dad has no tact whatsoever. And my dad makes people shorter and fatter. I make them taller and skinnier. He makes the guys more balder. He makes the guys he's so blunt. He's old school Cuban guys like, oh yeah, whatever. But I could not imagine me living with my dad. No, I would go crazy. Like, I wouldn't even talk. But you did that special. That makes you so special. Like, you should deserve a lot of credit for that, right? And a lot of tolerance of maneuvering that, right?
Yes.
What would you in that time, Boz, tell yourself? Were you like, this is gonna be over one day, or were you just like, look, I just gotta do it? What did you tell yourself?
You know, I think a lot of it was just empathy. You know, I wasn't like counting down the days till it was over. I was more feeling like, what if I were in those shoes? Right. You know, how terrible that would be. And you wouldn't want to be in a situation where you didn't feel wanted or whatever, right? So I took on all of the burden of being like, okay, let me just try to keep peace. Because again, like, just to be clear, for folks who have not read my book, it's like, the first time my dad came to live with me, I was 25 years old, 26 years old. I just got married. We lived in a studio apartment in Manhattan that was 600 square feet.
With the sheets, you were putting on,
Man,
you were putting
look,
on imaginary
yeah,
barriers.
Look, I had a bookcase that you could see through to the bed. I put a sheet on one
Now
side.
you take photo shoots with sheets
Look,
in Europe, and back then that was like your privacy divider.
That was the privacy divider. I couldn't even afford to get like a
Color,
screen,
yeah, or like a
whatever.
color sheet, probably like white sheets.
Man,
Or something.
just with a blanket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. And it was like I had to manage between being responsible for my dad and being responsible to my husband. You know, a new wife. Where it was like, okay, it's like I'm also just trying to figure out like what is a wife anyway? Like how do I do this?
Right.
Especially to a white guy. I don't even know where to begin.
Right.
You know? And for me it was like, how do I simply keep the peace? Because I don't want my dad to feel bad. He's in a tough spot.
Right.
He and my mom had just divorced. He was like trying to figure out what to do. He didn't have any place to go.
How old was he at the time?
Oh gosh, how old was he? I think like just over 60.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because your parents were older.
Yeah.
They had you at what age?
My mom was 28,
Okay.
and my dad was, I guess he was like, 35.
35.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, there was a responsibility I felt for sure, but also just empathy and feeling like, okay, if I was my dad, how, you know, I want to be in a place, you with your kid, you know, you feel bad already, like you don't want to feel worse. It's your lowest, you know what I'm saying? And also, I got to feel empathy for my husband. Like you're here with your new wife. All you want to do is
You want to take her down 24/7.
every day.
Yeah, you want to
know
hit
what
it
I
all
mean?
the time. It's awesome.
But you got your father-in-law here.
Hey, you explain. I love how you explain that in the book too. And you're such a natural in the book too. How do you? Because you're a reader. Cause I was like, how does this girl sound so good? Like reading, you're talking about I don't know what book of Solomon. I don't know what you're talking about. You're authors. What is this girl talking about? But it all. I was telling this to my wife. I go, all this. This is why that's why you're so brilliant, because this whole work that you've done your whole life is now coming to fruition, and you're able to easily fire off things, and you're like, you're good in any setting.
Yeah. No, but this is what is so gorgeous about each of us as individuals, right? Because I think oftentimes we're like, you get into a space, even in the corporate world, right, where you're just like, oh, I've just got to be like the other people. You know, I've just got to fit into what they're doing. And the thing is that, like, your individual experiences have made you what you are, so you are sufficient for the moment you're in.
1,000%.
You know what I'm saying?
1,000%.
That, like, there's no way I write this book at the time I write it without having done the things I've done, without being a voracious reader where I'm just like, I'm picking up books, I'm like devouring them. You know what I mean? Like, I love to get in there and just be like lost in a different world, somebody else telling me a story. My favorite genre is historical fiction of women. I want to know their stories. Like, I read one of the most incredible books I've ever read is like Cleopatra, the memoirs of Cleopatra, written by this woman, Margaret George. The shit is like 700, 800 pages, but it's so fascinating because you're just like, nobody talked about Cleopatra like this.
No,
you know what I mean? Cleopatra, and she's out here like a hoe or something. You know, they're like, oh, she was Mark Antony, and then she's with like Caesar, and she's going in between. I'm like, no, this woman like had to like rule an entire empire by herself at like 18 years old while people were trying to kill her. You know what I mean? And then like took control, like at a time where they didn't really respect women like that. And then she's out here having kids and keeping wars at bay, and then it's like she has to commit suicide. It's crazy.
Let me ask you a question. As you look into your future now, right, with everything you've done, are you like political? Are you like, man, should I hit that? Are you thinking, like, what do you, in whatever you believe in? I also, even if we disagree, I support you in your thing, whatever it is.
Of course.
What do you think of now? Because you're a winner. You're so young still. It's not like you're like, what do you want? What do you want to do? More books? More? You speaking more? What makes you happy? What?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the key right there. Right there. Like, I would say like for the last 15 years, no, I'll make it more condensed. Last 10 years. I would say since my husband's death, right? Like, I have been singularly focused on my own happiness. Completely unapologetically. Being like, okay, do I like the people I'm with? do I like the job I'm in? Do I like the situation? Whatever. I don't care what the situation. Do I like my doctor? You know, like, I don't do anything out of obligation.
Right.
Are there family members I no longer want to talk to?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Fantastic. Awesome. You know what I mean? And so I have become so accustomed to listening to my own gut, my own spirit.
So what is it telling you?
I'm kind of in a wait, to be honest. Like,
But if you were to pick, if let's say
if I
right
was to
now,
pick.
if right
No,
now,
see, but I don't even
yeah,
wanna
but
do
I know
that.
you don't. I know you don't do that. But
Yeah.
for you, let's say we get to, hey, you know, we're gonna pick.
Yeah.
What would you go into? What is your vibe? Because my vibe with you is politician. Because you're a leader. Because and for a lot of good reasons. Because because you can let's not fight, but you can fight the fight.
Yes.
And you have
Yes.
and you're not an idiot.
And also.
And you have heart.
Yes.
So you have empathy. You have everything we want in
Because actually,
somebody.
that's what's missing
That's the hardest
in
thing
politics.
in everything in life.
Yeah.
In life, it's like
There's so much arguing happening.
no, and it's like, look, I understand that a woman of your status, like even like booking the car for you, right? Like I can't send you a regular car.
Yeah, no,
That's not
you
happening.
can't. No, can't happen.
That's the
Don't
quickest
send
way
me a
for you
regular
to
car.
do a 360
No, first of all,
and
I
go
won't
right
get in the
back.
car.
You can't. No, but you
I'm
don't.
not getting in the car.
You don't
I'm gonna
want
look at the car and be like,
yeah,
I'm outta
exactly,
here.
right. But I have to emphasize your hair. You don't want it to frizz. Your high heels, stuff that has nothing to do with my world, right? But I think about that, right? Because I'm trained and I'm obsessed with empathy. Of why is she this way? Look at this girl's trajectory, man.
Right.
She's been overlooked her whole life.
I'm telling you.
Now, even in, and we joked about it, but even in the fitness space, with what you're doing to get up, put the knee pads on, listen to the music, do these ridiculous. You're doing 2-a-days now.
Yo, 2-a-days. I'm
You're,
swimming too.
You know, you're swimming. That's what I tell you. You're swimming.
Swimming.
You're dieting. I'm so proud of you in that aspect because I remember when you started that.
Yes.
I remember you literally when you started posting the videos, your outfits were completely different back then,
Completely
right?
Yeah, totally different.
That was a mom
I didn't
look,
know what I
whatever,
was doing.
right?
Exactly.
But now, and the fact that you're like, no makeup on, I don't care,
Yeah,
I'll cover the hair,
yeah.
you
I'm
wear
gonna
the thing,
bonnet.
I'm gonna run all the way, I'm pushing
Yes.
sleds.
That's right.
We need that kind of leadership the world needs. Where you're gonna put it, it's for your soul and what you feel inside.
Right.
But tell me argue with me you're not the perfect person for that. You can't.
Yeah.
You are.
Look, I really love politics. I really do. Like I think politics is misunderstood because it's like, oh, I'm just gonna come in and like make a big speech and then da da da. No, but politics is about how you work with people. You know, you take the concerns of your constituents and then you try to work with somebody else to make their lives.
It's messed up because of money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the first thing. If every politician in the world had a salary cap,
Yeah.
then hey, here's the best thing. Then however you manage your. But the problem is, what usually happens is, you get a good person like you, and whatever you stand, then what happens? Oh, okay, then you get your team running. You go, no, you can't say that.
Yeah.
Because look, here we go.
Yeah.
Look how much they're giving us here, and Beyonce doesn't like this. You want to be friends with her, right? Oh no, if you want her to sing in your thing.
That's the part. That's the part.
That's
Like,
the
I'm
hard
like,
part.
oh, man.
But you can cut through that because you're that special.
I'll take notes.
You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you.
Why are you not in politics?
Because my job is this, for now. You know, I'm not as smart as you. I'm not as smart as you at all. No. No, my stuff's not. My thing is different. My thing is I'm more of, I see things and I help people in spots and places that maybe they don't see it. You know?
If you ran today, I bet people would vote for you.
I don't know. I don't
I think so.
because I don't have what you have.
But you're like so motivated.
Because I'm a failure. You're a winner.
I totally get
you
that.
know what I'm saying? But you have what somebody can back up. You have right now. I don't have that yet. I'll have it one. Like my destiny is set. 2 years from now, a month from now, whatever it is, I will hit in a way that's the man upstairs set me to be, and that destiny's already. It's emotional, right? But you've already done it. Nobody could sit with you and say nothing to you because you are like an established, almost like you look at a Hall of Fame athlete that has had his run and now goes into ownership. That's where you're at right now. Right.
Exactly
in everything you do. So it's what do we do now?
Yeah.
Is it because Is it the Bose media thing where you're like, you know what, I want to, is that what I feel?
Right.
But because of your presence and what you do, I think that to me is, for you, I think that's the
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, look, I love, well, clear, I love people.
Yeah.
I love my community. I love being able to just make the environments I'm in more equitable. You know, those are the things that I'm really interested in. If I felt like I could do that well and
You could.
I would go.
Now you're there's going to be fighting, obviously, because you see it, but you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
I'm like, if I felt like I could really make a change in that way, I would do it. Or maybe it's in a different, you know.
But it
capacity.
starts with that for you, I think, because you really fit that bill. 2 more questions. I could talk to you all day. Favorite type of music? I know. I saw you. You know, you did a whole. I know you like it, but you like. I saw you make a big push on Ghana music. You did like a documentary now or something. You did, right?
Yes.
But who's your favorite of all? Who do you like? Obviously, is it Beyonce number one?
Man,
Is Beyonce?
I know, right? Exactly. I've seen Beyonce 3 times already now.
That was in
No. Yeah, exactly. Well, my favorite song is good. Probably gonna be a surprise. It's Paul Simon.
Okay.
Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes. It's
All right, I like that.
it's, you know, he uses African music, you know, but this white like folk singer
Right.
who created a sound that was actually very disruptive at the time, you know, but also utilized African artists.
What's the name of the song? What is it called?
Diamonds on the soles of her shoes.
Diamonds on Solar Shoes.
Yes. Paul Simon.
It's so interesting because being Cuban, you get the best of both worlds. We have the Europeanness of the Spaniards, but we have the rhythm
Yes,
and soul
of
of
the
the island,
Africans.
right? That
Yes.
comes from
Yes,
the
from
African
Africans.
beats and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
There's a slavery language called Ñeña that they sing at the Buena Vista Social Club, who became real popular, saying that they brought when they came in from Africa. That's really popular, and the beat, so that's what gives us the rhythm
Yes.
and the friendliness and all that stuff, you know. And I'm so thankful that you took the time to do this. You know,
thank you for having me.
I'm so
Thank you for
grateful.
your interest.
Yeah, I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
I've always loved everything you do, and I'm like such a big fan of your story and everything you're gonna accomplish. I'm amazed by that. I always end the show with this. Have a question for me. What can I help you with? Ask me a question.
Ooh, ask you a question. Okay, so I'm at the place where like I said, I'm sort of quieting, you know, to really hear my inner thoughts, my spirit, etc. How do you get quiet?
I'm quiet all the time.
How are you?
Yeah, like in my brain, I'm with you in Santorini or wherever you were. That's my brain. Like I don't know why, but so I'm the biggest failure in the history of Miami baseball. My dad abused me through the sport, very bad physically, and I was known for that. And my household was a very chaotic household. When you grow up in the '90s and you don't have a TV in your room, and my dad kept me with him 24/7, and all the abuse came because of baseball, and I wasn't successful. In my brain, I would hide. So,
that's where you would go
so that's
in.
where I'm at all the time. So when I get here to Los Angeles and I watch, there's not a cloud in the sky, and I see you, when I get talk, I'm in heaven right now, right? And that's how I am, 24/7. Now, the hardest thing for me becoming a podcast like that is expectations, because what happens is people sit down with me, and they fall in love immediately. And immediately they're like, oh my God, you should have a show. Let's do it. And where it really started to mess with me is when famous people started doing it to me.
Oh, yes.
Because they could gas you up and they're great, and then they're gonna do anything.
Right. You're never going to hear from them.
You never hear from them again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I learned that expectation, right, is put on process and effort and attitude, not on the results of what somebody tells you. So the only thing I bring to everything I do is amazing effort and attitude. And if you right now to me whatever, I go, oh, awesome, whatever, and then I leave it alone. But a lot of times I liked it so much and I fall in my heart, like, that's for me, oh my God, this is perfect, that I would be there. But other than that, I married the love of my life at 37, 38 years old, you know? So we've been together for 8 years. I saw her in high school, the hottest girl I've ever seen. Never spoke to her because I had nothing. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything going on. I had nothing. I saw her and she kind of looked at me, smiled, like, yeah, lip, and that's it. And then, so I grew up I went from Cuba to Spain, lived there for briefly, moved to Miami, played college baseball a little bit, And then I decided I was going to be an actor, so I moved to Los Angeles, and I slept in these Hollywood Hills for 6 months.
Can you imagine?
And I lived in a Toyota Corolla. I didn't know anybody.
Wow.
I didn't know anybody.
That's so interesting.
And the man upstairs, I ran away from baseball, and there was a guy by the name of Gary Austin who created something called the Groundlings. It's a real famous improv theater. And I came here to act. I go, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to do the furthest away thing from baseball.
Yeah.
And Bose, when I got there, and this guy, when Helen Hunt won her Academy Award for As Good as It Gets, she thanked him. So this guy has to be good.
Right.
So his first class, I sit there, and I had been in my car for 6 months. I didn't talk to anybody. And I realized why people go crazy. Because I had all my belongings in my car. My foot's falling asleep at night from sleeping.
From being cramped.
And being cramped in a car. And there's no, I couldn't go on YouTube. I couldn't whatever. So everything was brain.
Yeah.
Brain, in my head. What am I going to do? And he's wearing a retro Houston Astros baseball jacket. And I go, this is a sign. And then from there, everything. So in 6 years, I became a celebrity baseball coach here in Beverly Hills, working with successful people's kids.
Yeah.
And then I moved to a little town called Las Vegas.
Yes.
And I
Tiny little place.
And I worked out, started off as a promoter, and I worked my way up to be vice president of customer development for SPE, who was and I ran Hyde in the Bellagio.
So amazing.
And in 4 years, that made me, I really learned how to deal with people.
So incredible, isn't it? But all of those experiences.
Yeah, that's what, and if I could tell you, everybody that in my life I wanted to meet, I'm meeting, and the coincidence of that, there's no way, but it's just so crazy. Ooh. It's insane. Like I could say, I saw, like I see you on TV, and I go, I'm gonna talk to her soon, and then boom, and then here you are.
See,
you know, and then here you are, right? And then it's like this, and that's happening to me constantly. And all what I'm passionate about is, so I was 4 years in Vegas. I lived at the RE Hotel. I've never, not that I have anything against it, I've never drank, I've never done drugs in my life, nothing, right? And I've been around the most successful gamblers, the most successful people in the world. Yeah. And the message that, it's almost like when, I don't know if it was Moses or somebody that came back with a message, right? Yeah. My message is, and the one thing I'm passionate about is, there'll never be another you again. Yeah. So I tell people, I go, when you see her, let's focus on, don't worry about the nails, because that's what people want to do. Like, oh, those nails are going to be, they go to nails. Right. They go to the shoes. I go, don't worry about that. Right. Look at the heart, look at the passion, look at the caring, look at the empathy. You don't find that. Look at the mother. Look how she's critical about herself. Look how she worries about the baby. Look how she worries about her daughter. This, that. Look how she lets her be her. Look at the list. That to me is the specialness that people don't want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I wish this was more cool. This is all like jacked up. We're all here, all this. We should have done it. We'll do a studio better, this and that, you know? Yeah, maybe get maybe a little closer, you know? I'm so proud of you. So, is it Bozoma Saint John? Bozoma Saint John? Yeah. And all social handles, I'm gonna link you up there. I'm gonna do a link of the book too. I did the audio book.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Super
so
special.
Heard me already.
I heard you. I know the voice. The voice is, you're perfect for that. So thank you so much for doing this. I'm gonna link your stuff there below. There it is. Boom.
Thank you. This is so great.
Very, very good job. What a natural talent.